Yes. Still no invites out quite yet. Palmer for the win. Let me tell you something. I hope that's what we see. I haven't actually gotten any invites quite yet. We'll be here. We'll get this going. We just haven't gotten our invites together, so stand by until then. Just waiting for an invite to be sent. There we go. Thank you, Shreya. All right. We are loading into this session, lads. Oh my goodness, we've got a full grid at Spa. It is Jover, lads. This is incredible. I am so ready for this Grand Prix here tonight, everybody. This is going to be fantastic. I'm going to get myself a little bit of something to drink. Not like alcoholic, but, throat cleansing drink. Let me tell you something. It's been a very good day today, and to cap it off with 20 driver grid at Spa is going to be something like we've never seen before. I finished my last, what do you call it, class today? My final TV broadcasting class that I've been taking since a couple of months, and I graduate on Monday. It is going to be a good day. Not only that, we've got 20 cars on the grid. Thank you very much, Liam. I appreciate that. We've got 20 cars on the grid in France. This is, or not France. What are we, Spa? Well, I mean, Belgium and France almost kind of the same thing. I mean, they do speak both French, don't they? Anyways, we've got just a little bit to go here. 10 seconds. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 10th round of the Division 1 season here in the Midwest eSports League. We've got a full grid, 20 cars on track tonight at the infamous circuit Spa-Francorchamps here in Belgium, in the heart of the Ardennes Forest. There really is no place quite like Spa. And, well, I simply can't wait to get this one underway. Hotspot on the call for you. We are officially 2/3 of the way through this season. And let me tell you something. It's been a very interesting one so far. I'm very happy to have joined Division 1 here as much as I have in what will probably be my last live broadcast to the season. I may be uploading a little bit. I may be uploading the races like pre-recorded like I was doing, but... yeah, this will probably be one of the last live editions that I do participate in. So while we have a second here, let's go over the point standings. After Miami last time out, Palmer leads Scornsey by 13 points in the standings, 474 to 461. Mackey in third, 415. Race day 329. Edwin 313. Chuck Blazin 311. Plums 300. Kelly Robb 299. That's a Ferrari team has 1 point between the two of them, 7th and 8th place. VTech 9th, 296. And Houdini 295. Very close battles up and down the top 10 in the drivers. As far as the constructors are concerned, Alpine lead the way. 785 to Aston Martin 707. Williams 686. Ferrari 641. Mercedes 549. They lead McLaren and Alfa Romeo by 2. 547 for both McLaren and Alfa Romeo, tied for that 6th spot. AlphaTauri 488. Haas 480. And Red Bull 443. As we're here today at the circuit Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. One of the most controversial, infamous, respected, feared circuits in the world. And we've got 20 cars on the grid. What a proper race this is going to be. Looks as if our first driver out on track is going to be the Williams of Nicky 64, making his way up Eau Rouge now. Taking it very slowly, naturally on this outlap. Now, this track, very, very large. These are 1 minute 40-ish lap times, I believe, somewhere around there. So these outlaps are going to take quite a while. These drivers may not get more than 2 runs in. So these lap attempts that they do take on here, they will have to, really put their best foot forward almost immediately. And it looks as if Scavney has decided to overtake Nicky. Either that or Nicky's let him have the position. It looks as if everybody on softs, minus that of Travis Scott. Palmer has, for whatever reason, chosen the mediums. Edwin has left the session for some reason. Not sure why that is, but Scavney leading them down through Puhan now, and it looks as if coming into next game we are going to have the updated track surface and design and layout of this track. Of course, they've not really done all that much, but they've added a lot of gravel, and that should be something worth noting in next game, as well as they've updated the track, visually, aesthetically as well, to match real life. So a lot of changes coming to Spa next season. But for the time being, going into Imola, what is it, next time out, I believe. We'll take a look at the, next 3 rounds. Actually, next 3. We got 5 rounds to go. Imola, Singapore, France, Canada, and Austria, the remaining 5. As we head on here to a timed lap attempt for that of Scavney. A little bit odd that Scavney's actually not chosen to go onto the medium tires. Usually he'll be the driver to make that happen, but he's going down the pit straight now, heading towards La Source. It is a very tight and treacherous right-handed corner that does see drivers really push to the outside on the opening lap, trying to maximize the late braking. What it does end up causing is a lot of contact and a lot of carnage. Going through Rouge and up the hill through Radillon now. And it looks like he's held it pretty okay. You can pretty much take that corner flat as it is now. With the old generation of cars, with the less downforce that the cars had, you couldn't take that flat. You had to downshift or lift heavily. Not quite anymore. Maybe still a lift. Not that bad. Heading into Lacombe and Malmedy now. Got to be careful of exit of Malmedy. Sometimes you'll see drivers pick up track limits penalties there, not often. Into Brussels, one of the most difficult corners on this circuit, in my opinion. It's a very off-camber circuit. The track falls away to the outside. And if it was on camber, you'd have two lines of racing through there. That's not the case. The track falls away, and sometimes a lot of drivers do get caught out by surprise, as well as the downhill left-handers of Pouhon here. Very tricky one. We're going to see a lot of mistakes made through there today. Heading towards Campus and Stavilo now. It looks as if Scavney on a halfway decent lap here, and he's got relatively clean track ahead of him. Of course, the Red Bull to the inside, who's pulled off. Got to be careful of the exit of Stavilo. That barrier on the outside does creep up on you very quickly, and any sort of understeer that pushes you to the outside, you will be hitting that wall, and the safety car will be brought out. Through Blanchimont now. It's a tricky corner, this, because sometimes we'll see drivers want to make moves heading into the final chicane here, but that section of the track is just not wide enough to fit two cars side by side, and oftentimes we will see mistakes be made there. Scavney's going to have a halfway decent first lap here. It's a 143.935. Not going to be representative enough, I don't think, as Nicky's gone 142.250. Now, I expected coming into this we'd be in the high 142s, low 143s. That's not the case. Nicky 64 has already put a ridiculous good lap on the board. But if that's kind of an expectation of things to come here, we're going to see Gunnar perhaps put in a good one here as he's making his way into the final chicane now. It's a tricky one, this, because if you go any sort of too deep, you compromise the line coming out of the second bit of the corner, and that does tend to throw drivers for a loop. Gunnar's gone 142.888 there, about 6.5 tenths of a second behind. He has the McLaren of Reimer actually beginning one now. I'm very curious to see Reimer in action here. I don't believe this is his first Division 1 race. I'm actually going to go confirm that now. This may be his first as a full-time McLaren driver here in Division 1. The results from last week, I mean, he did not compete last week. Yeah, I think this may be a first-time, full-time Division 1 appearance here for Reimer, a driver that I have been very excited to see at the top level here in Midwest. A driver who I think could do very, very well as he makes his way through Brussels. Now, the Haas on the outside there may have held him a little bit. Scornsy's gone second, about a half second behind Mackey now in the Williams, who has won last week. That win was given to him after some sort of technical difficulties. But the Williams atop the table for now, 4.5 tenths of a second ahead of Scornsy, five-time champion. As Reimer is going to be making his way towards Campus and Stavilo here shortly. He's got clear track ahead of him. It's all going to be up to the McLaren and what he can put together. Now, this is going to be interesting for Reimer because if you follow the other broadcasts that I put together, you'll know this is a driver that does appreciate having a car with more downforce. This is a track where if you get that set up correctly, you will succeed. Whether or not Reimer does that, because again, he likes the high downforce, but this is a very quick track. Usually, a driver that does suffer in the straight line speed. I'm very curious to see if he can, negate that enough to get himself good track position. Little squirrely perhaps on the exit of the final corner, but Reimer across the line goes third. 141.940 is about 9 tenths of a second behind, but is within a second of Mackey. And I tell you what, as someone who doesn't know how to drive in this game, I'm going to go ahead and assume that is a massively impressive effort, that especially for one of his first Division 1 attempts. That is a very solid one here, and if he can put together a good result today, he will definitely send some waves here in Midwest. Across the line goes Sui. He's gone 10th. It looks as if we got the McLaren, his actual teammate of race day 2016, who has invalidated his lap, unfortunately, and into the pit lane for the second McLaren, the former champion. We do have the Haas coming up next. I believe that is Final Flame starting one here, yet to put together a timed attempt. A lot of drivers flocking to the pit lane here early as through Lasorsko's final flame. Across the line, that was the Alfa Romeo of Ray Ray. He's gone 12th, about a tenth better than Scavney still, nearly 3 seconds off the pace of the top spot. 2 seconds behind from that top spot is shared by Shariah, VTech, Sui, Cynical, Ray Ray, and Scavney. I hope that those are not necessarily representative laps, because if they are, then Mackie will have another stranglehold on this grid. The final flame making his way through Malmedy now, down the hill towards the right-hander of Brussels. Really taking the inside line. Sometimes you'll see drivers go a little bit wide. That's not the case. He's chosen the more conventional stick to the apex line there. Out of Speaker's corner and down towards Puhan here. He's taking more of the eSports line on the outside, taking as much curve as he can. Tell you what, not looking a bad lap so far here from the Haas of Final Flame. Next on the line looks as if the Alfa Romeo of Travis Scott, very quick driver in his own right, he's beginning one here, as well as the McLaren of, I want to say, Reimer on his way into the pit lane. Next up, though, actually, is going to be that of Sui. I don't believe he's going to be putting together one here. I think he's probably going to be into the pit lane, the top 9 into the pits at the moment. And I have a feeling that Sui is going to follow suit here, but Final Flame making his way towards the chicane here. Let's see, I'd say he's actually gone a bit deep into that first apex of the chicane, but across the line is going to go Final Flame. That's a halfway decent attempt. And third, 141.670. I didn't think there was much wrong with that lap, and as it turns out, he's put himself third in the Haas. Very nicely done there from Final Flame as split Scornsey and Reimer. Made his way onto the second row. He's got about a tenth and a half to make up over Scornsey. He's about a tenth, nearly probably over 2/10 of a second to the good of Reimer. Now, Chuck Blazin, this is interesting, a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. And I'm not rightly sure why that penalty's actually been given. I understand that Scornsey on track behind him. Scornsey, however, is on an outlap. That is a really odd penalty to be had by the Alpine driver of Chuck Blazin. So he will have a 5-place grid penalty for the allegedly illegal blocking of the Aston Martin of Scornsey. Past him now goes the AlphaTauri of Scavney. I want to believe this is a timed lap from him. He's currently a tenth quicker through Sector 1. We'll turn on the telemetry now. I'm quite interested to see the straight line speeds that these guys might be pulling here. 8 minutes to go in the session, as Callie Robb has been disqualified for blocking the pit lane. Now, I don't know what's happened with Callie Robb there, as the robot's going to pull him off to the outside of the circuit, get blatantly in the way of the Alfa Romeo of Travis Scott, who may have been on a timed attempt there. No, I don't think he has, actually. Okay, that may be helpful, as I don't think Travis is actually on a timer there. Although the recharge light has stayed off, so maybe he was. But that was to no fault of Callie Robb. I think maybe as he had a spin coming out of La Source, and he spun in front of the pit lane. That is probably what's happened. Another very odd penalty being handed out by the stewards here, but that is the case. So we do have a good gaggle of cars coming around the line now. Mackie is making his way down towards Brussels. Scornsey actually about to begin one here. We're going to go along with the Aston Martin for his second timed attempt. Maybe not. He's kind of queued up here, but behind the Ferrari of, who is that, of the Plums. Across the line was that of Scavney. I do think he's improved, not really enough to turn heads. Scornsey has actually made his way back into the pit lane. As it turns out, he wasn't happy, I don't think, with the setup about to happen. So, yeah, 6 minutes and 40 remaining in the session. Scornsey has chosen to abandon the time lap he has yet to put together. Palmer has gone, or at least I think stayed second, has 9 1,000ths back to Scornsey for the second spot. Reimer's dropped to 5th. Nicky still maintains 6th. It's been a good session so far for the Williams. On his initial timed attempt, has still held water, as it turns out. Travis Scott making his way into the chicane now, currently occupies 7th, but it looks as if he's invalidated. And that was in the final chicane as well. He's gone way too deep over the initial apex into the pit lane for Travis Scott. That'll be the end of that attempt. Scott Palmer is finished with his. I think the Plum's on one now, albeit he's 4/10 slower through Sector 1. Chuck Blazin has gone purple Sector 1, matter of fact. Here he goes through Malmedy now and down towards Brussels. I believe we have Edwin on a timed lap. Edwin has yet to put together a timer here. So we'll go along with Edwin for the time being. As across the line, I believe that was Race Day's gone 6th, actually. Yes, he has. Edwin down the Kemmel straight now, 214 mile an hour into the braking zone. Looks pretty good. It's a purple sector 1, albeit he doesn't have a timed attempt to his name for the time being. 5.5 minutes remaining here in the qualifying session. Reimer back on an outlap now. Scornsy still in the pit lane. Sui on track now, I think probably on a flyer, although only making his way up through Eau Rouge now. Edwin through Speaker's Corner, heading to Pouon now. 5 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. Little bit of slide on the back end there on the initial turn-in phase, but he's held the car together either way as he's making his way over towards Campus and Stavilo. Now he's got relatively clear track ahead of him, perhaps only the Red Bull of, well, it's either Cynical or Coleslaw. We got really close to the exit there of Campus. Nearly had all 4 over the white line, but the lap is still going to count. Heading towards Blanchimont now. Just about 4.5 minutes remaining for the session here. We still have, 9 drivers remaining in the pit lane. Reimer on an outlap. He's making his way, I think, in through Pouon now. Out of the final corner goes Edwin. I think he's had an okay getaway there of the chicane. He's actually gone 8th, 142.215. That's a good attempt from Edwin, but I'm afraid he may not have time to get back to the pit lane. He's only got 4 minutes and 15 seconds. That's probably... Honestly, that may not be enough to get in, get back out, and put together one final attempt. That is really close. Reimer making his way through Stavilo now. We do have the Haas of, it's not Final Flame, it's going to be VTech on a timer here, making his way through La Source. Currently 1.7 seconds behind Mackey for the top spot. Exits La Source heading towards Eau Rouge and Radion now. Behind him, the Aston Martin of Sui, who I believe has just finished a lap, currently 12th. 3/100ths quicker than VTech. Down the Kemmel straight goes the Haas here. Although, is he on a flyer? No, as it turns out, no, he's actually chosen not to either complete or begin that lap. Edwin not on a flyer either. Reimer making his way out of La Source, heading towards Eau Rouge and Radion now. 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining, currently 6th. Only 3/100ths of a second behind Chuck Blazin. Just over a 10th better than his teammate for the time being. Down the Kemmel straight, 214. But a 10th and a half quicker through Sector 1, looking good. Also out on track now, Final Flame. We've got the Ferrari of the Plums, as well as Nicky 64, who's fallen to 9th, but still a good session nonetheless so far for Nicky. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining here. Oh, how has he kept that one within track limits? That was going over Speaker's Corner there. It looked as if he had all 4 over the white line. As it turns out, the game says no. That one was very close to invalidation there for Reimer, but he's kept the car on track, and the timer's still going as he's making his way towards Campus and Stavilo now. I'm interested to see what the split time will be through Sector 2 as he'll get to the line. He has improved by nearly half a second. So Reimer now has a very quick final section of this track. He's made it through the slow speed, Sector 2. That's probably where he gained the majority of his time. Whether or not he continues to prove here in through the high-speed final sector, aside from the final chicane here, is going to be interesting to see. Mackey, Scornsy, both on outlaps now. Reimer through the chicane. If he holds the exit well, he could have a go for at least 3rd here, and across the line goes Reimer, and 2nd, 141.420. 5.5 of a second better than his previous best. Moves within 4/10 of a second of Mackey, of the second best time that we've seen of the day. Mackey making his way towards Brussels here shortly. Palmer making his way down the Kemmel straight. Scornsy actually ahead of Mackey, not all that far. Final Flame going through Blanchimont now. Chuck Blazin only out on track now, making his way in towards Lacombe. That might be very close call there for Chuck Blazin, not sure. Race Day making his way through Pouon. As we have the Alfa Romeo of Travis Scott getting around the Haas then of Final Flame. If you're not out on track right now, that will be the end of the session. That's the case for Sui, that's the case for VTech, and that's the case for Shariah. So the Plums has started one here. Travis Scott will be next, although he has invalidated somewhere in this final sector. That could be a this end next for Travis Scott. No, it's not, thankfully for him. Nicky 64 going up through Eau Rouge and Radion down the Kemmel straight now with a driver who has maintained top 10 position all day long. Whether or not he keeps it here, there's going to be a lot of competition. Currently 2/100 slower through Sector 1. Travis Scott a little bit further behind, making his way down the Kemmel Straight now. Nicky 64 going through Brussels. Reimer, I believe, getting out of the way there through Puon. Nicky 64 making his way towards the double left-handed corner now. Travis Scott going into Brussels. Plum's making his way out of campus. Matter of fact, he's actually improved by 3.5 tenths of a second there. Across the line now, that's the Alpine of Palmer starting one. His teammate of Chuck Blazin a little bit further behind, starting one as well. And actually next up behind him is that of Edwin, but Edwin cannot get to the line in time. Plums has invalidated. His session is over. Only 11th for the time being. Next up was the AlphaTauri of Scavney, a 10th better through this final sector. Let's see what he's got. That was through Sector 2, actually, as he exits the corner. He's still going to be a little bit further behind, but he will improve up to 16th only for Scavney. Out of the final corner now is going to be that of Nicky 64. What can he put together? Anything for the top 5? No, just short. P7, 142.942. Improves by 0.3 of a second. Good effort from Nicky. Just falls to row 4. Travis Scott, a 1/10 of a second quicker through Sector 2. Big wiggle there coming out of the final chicane across the line for Travis Scott. Stays 10th. The McLaren of Race Day making his way through Blanchimont now, but Final Flame next up, but I don't think he's on a representative lap. No, he's not. Final Flame's qualifying is over. Race Day up next. After him, the Alfa Romeo of Ray Ray. Let's see what Race Day has to offer here, the former champion. Making his way across the line now, Race Day. 6th place, 0.4 quicker. Next up behind him, the Alfa Romeo, but we'll go on with Scornsey, who across the line will go the 5-time and defending champion. 2nd place, 141, 318. Mackey to the line now. Provisional pole has improved by quite a lot. Palmer next up. The Red Bull of Cynical has gone 12th. Palmer and Chuck Blazin, probably the last two that can have a fair attempt at getting Mackey off pole. And Palmer will go 2nd, but Chuck Blazin, can he do anything here? No, he is invalidated. And that will be the session unless does Andrew Mason have something special here, and it doesn't appear that's going to be the case. Mackey improves by a damn lot there, 140, 614. Palmer 2nd, Scornsey 3rd, and newcomer Reimer rounds out the 2nd row. Top 4 separated by 0.8. P5 to P11 separated by less than a second, and Andrew Mason has been disqualified for parking in a dangerous location. That is exiting campus, or sorry, Stavilo. And, well, he's starting at the back. He was going to be starting P19, irregardless of the disqualification or not. But Mackey on pole. Last week's race winner had a 5-win streak. And it looks like he may have another streak beginning today. He's on pole, 5.5 of a second over Palmer. Put in a great lap at the end. Scornsey 3rd, Reimer, newcomer, rounding out the 2nd row. Final Flame 5th, Race Day, the McLaren teammate, former champion, in 6th. Chuck Blaze in 7th, Nicky 64 8th. Good result from him. Edwin 9th. Travis Scott rounds out the top 10. Plums 11th, Cynical 12th, Swee 13th. VTech 14th, Gunner 15th, Shariah 16th, Scavney 17th, 18th is Ray Ray. Unfortunately for Andrew Mason and Callie Robb, they've both been disqualified. Any laps they had have not counted, but interesting reasonings for the both of them. I think both of them for parking in a dangerous location or illegal blocking or something or another. Mackey on a roll this season, and he may have the opportunity to do it again here at Spa. Mackey, by the way, 3rd in the standings versus that of Palmer and Scornsey. 474, 461, and 415, the top 3. Just a reminder of the upcoming races here. We have Imola next time out, May the 16th. Singapore, May 23rd. France, May 30th, the day before F124 releases, but we're going to give it the 2 weeks to see if the game is actually up to par enough to run league racing. Canada, June the 6th and June 13th, rounding out the season at the Red Bull Ring. Looks as if perhaps some form of error perhaps happening in the lobby here. Some drivers complaining they can't open the strategy screen. I don't really know what the reasoning is behind that. Shariah asking for info here. I think Shariah would like to avoid having a lobby restart, but if this is a common problem, then that may warrant a restart. I haven't seen this error yet. Coleslaw typing in the Discord now. I can assume nobody's hit the X button yet. Coleslaw is going to give us the indication if we need to restart. And Shariah Coleslaw, I think, saying that a restart is in order. So we'll take the minutes here to get ourselves back into a new lobby and all situated. And a lobby restart might be on the way. Yep, and there it is. We've lost Shariah. So a lobby restart up here. I shall quit to main menu. The stream will still go, but yeah, it's going to be just a little bit longer now. The suspense is killing us. Well, if you're one for statistics here, we're gonna go on for this one more time. Mackie won Australia, the Netherlands, Japan, Qatar, and Monza. 5 races in a row, I think tied for third all time. Palmer won the race in Sao Paulo, and Mackie won the race after that in Miami last time out. So Mackie has won 6 out of the last 7 races here in Division 1. And that is a statistic for the ages. Currently on a, did I say a 2-win streak or just the, nope. 3 out of the last 4, 6 out of the last 7 for Mackie. And I'll be starting on pole here again. I have not received the new invite to the next lobby yet. I'm hoping Shariah gets that in shortly. Of course, we're going to have to take the minutes to rebuild the grid. And there's Shariah. Look at that. Right on cue. So if you'd like a quick sporting result updates, Cleveland Cavaliers did dismantle the Boston Celtics tonight, 118-94. Fantastic game for the Cavaliers, which needed one after last time out. The Mavericks currently lead the Thunder 27-22 with 3:45 left in the first quarter. As far as the National Hockey League is concerned, Rangers and Hurricanes into overtime. Avalanche and Stars only just begun their game, 13 and a half minutes remaining in the first period. 0-0 for them, but the Rangers and Canes tied at 2-2. And as far as our baseball fans, White Sox lead the Guardians 3-0 into the sixth inning. Brewers lead the Cardinals 7-1 at the bottom of the eighth, and the Royals and Angels tied 0-0 bottom of the second. Lots happening here. I think we are just waiting for Shariah to reconstruct the grid. I think we've got 18 out of the 20 in. So once the other two are brought into the game, I think we're nearly ready to go here. Just waiting for two drivers to rejoin. Oh, you know you've been playing a game a long time when the soundtrack restarts on itself. I think we're going to get ready to go here very, very shortly. Just waiting for... Oh, there we go. Looks like we're right about... Oh, for God's sakes, I've dropped my phone on my foot. I do that more often than most people. Looks as if Shariah has gotten the grid order all set out, and we're going to be getting ready to go here very, very shortly. And it looks as if it's going to be set to dry, as that's what it probably would have been had the grid not to be restarted. Usually it'll be set to random, but when we have a grid restart like this, they set the weather to whatever the weather was supposed to be should the restart have not needed to happen, so that's why we are seeing such a dry session, which we're going to have. That's going to help us as far as strategical-wise, going to be a little bit more entertaining, I think. Of course, we do like the carnage in the rain, but we do like good strategy and good racing in the dry, and that's I think I would rather have that than rain any day of the week that ends with Y. So remember, Mackey's going to start on pole here. He'll have the outside line. I think it is going in towards La Source. That may hurt him a lot more here than most other circuits, mainly because that outside line, although now that I look at it, I think he may have the inside. That outside line, I mean, we do see drivers tend to try and make dives in towards that first corner. And when they go wrong horrendously. Romain Grosjean can tell you about that. Charles Leclerc can tell you about that. I think the entirety of the, 1995 grid in that race could tell you about that. I think it was 1995, was it not? The worst crash Murray Walker had seen in his entire life. We're just waiting for formation lap, I believe, to get underway. I don't think formation lap would be turned off in the instance that we do need a lobby restart, so I do believe that we are going to have that formation lap underway. It'll be interesting to see what tires our drivers choose, because as they would have had the opportunity to think that over in the first attempt at running this race, they'll have a second opportunity to have a think. It is often said to trust your best instinct, and that the first decision you make is usually the right one. So we'll have to wait and see what the dealio is with that. Remember, Imola up next week, and Imola is going to be one of those races where, qualifying very, very important. Probably, I would say at this point, the most important qualifying session of the season, aside from maybe the Canadian Grand Prix. But we have formation lap underway now. Let's have a look at the tires. Looks as if 4 out of the top 5 drivers have taken the softs, that being Mackey, Palmer, Scornsey, and Final Flame. Reimer, in his typical fashion, does choose the slower compound to begin here, Final Flame, the 5th driver in the top 5, on the softs. Race day, only one of 3 who have gone hard here, that being himself, Plums, and Cali Robb. Both the Ferraris on the same strategy. That might be a little interesting. So Reimer, Chuck Blazin, Nicky64, Edwin, and Travis Scott have chosen the medium tire, so the medium tire is the dominant compound in the top 10. Everywhere else, it's a pretty decent mixture. Cynical on the softs, VTech, Gunner, and Enbu also on the softs. Sui, Shariah, Scavney, and Ray Ray have chosen the mediums, and Cali Robb at the back on the hards. So, that leads me to question this. Mackey, Palmer, and Scornsey all even Stevens on tires here, as well as Final Flame. Does that mean Mackey could find a way to pull away once they exit that first corner at La Source? Because if he gets a good enough start and you get this guy in clean air, there's almost no looking back. But the difference between Spa and many of the other circuits we have on calendar, there's almost guaranteed to have some sort of race-altering safety car or virtual safety car thrown into the mix. And I think Mackey knows that as well. I think he needs to realize that he just needs to keep his head down, that the carnage will happen. one way or another, whether with him or without him. He's going to hope it's without him. Palmer's got an interesting situation here. He's got, I think, a really good opportunity into the first corner, but he does have Scornsy, all three of the top three in the championship. Palmer leads the championship, Scornsy second, Mackey third. Mackey lines up on pole, championship leader in second, championship second place in third. Similar to what happened in Miami as well, I believe, if I'm correct. So we've got a situation now where Mackey knows he'll be under pressure here. This guy has established himself already as a possibility to be in the championship. Whether or not now he gets himself in a position where he could win the championship is going to be up to him. He will line up on the inside of the grid here. One of the differences between Spa and normal tracks, typically the first spot will have the outside line and the unpreferred line going into the first corner. That's not the case, but one thing that is always certain about Spa, you never get good camera angles at the start here. Not one of these. I think Scornsy is probably the best one that we have. Oh, Reimer, that's a great one. Okay, we're going to use that. This is the camera angle as we just have Callie Robb lining up here. And here they go. Lights about to turn on. 2, 3, 4, and eventually 5 for the 10th round of this Division 1 season. Mackey will lead them away. They are off. Scornsy's actually gotten a halfway decent start, but I think Palmer's gotten away just as well as Mackey there. They're going to be really close in towards this first corner. The two McLarens are going to be side by side as they make their way out of La Source. Mackey has predictably not necessarily taken the lead by a lot, but he has kept the lead out of the first corner. They're going to make their way up through Rouge and Radion now. This is where the mistakes may be made. Scornsy right up against the back end of Mackey. Look how close he is. He's right there. He's going to have to try something into Lacombe here. This is going to be the best opportunity of him getting the lead. He's going to try the outside line, but Mackey will shut the door like it was an unwanted Jehovah's Witness as they make their way through Malmedy. Now it looks as if Mackey has kept and taken the lead, but VTech has crashed at the back. Safety car here already, and Gunnar may have had a hand in that one. As to the outside of Malmedy, of Lacombe. VTech has found the tire barrier on the outside. Gunnar, I don't know how was involved in that one, but for the Puerto Rican Haas driver, I believe that's going to be a very quick day for him, unfortunately. Gunnar with front wing damage there, and I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier as Mackey got off the line, kind of realized that he needed to keep his head down and get to some sort of advantage. Scornsy nearly had a very good opportunity going down the Kemmel Straight, but Mackey defended well. And that is going to be our first safety car of the day. Surely not the last either. Positions gained and lost. Callie Robb up 6, and I think it has something having to do with that as he stayed out of trouble. Perhaps was there a bit of a jumble as VTech and Gunnar got together. That could very well be the case as Gunnar down 4, VTech down 6. I'm going to assume that was what's happened there, and that's why we see Callie Robb picking up the several positions he had. Mackey stays out. Scornsy does as well. Palmer does. Final Flame makes his way in, interestingly enough. That'll promote the pair of McLarens to 4th and 5th. Final Flame, the first driver of the day, to pit 4. Coming off of the softs here. I don't believe we're going to have too many more in the pit lane. Final Flame will be joined by Anbu Mason and Gunnar, and those are the only 3 takers of the pit lane that we will see. New tires definitely going on to Final Flame. What they are, I haven't gotten an opportunity to see quite yet. We'll get that a look now. It's going to be mediums for the Haas. Gunnar in. He'll need a front wing change. It looks like it's probably going to be medium tires as well. Yes, they are. Medium tires for the AlphaTauri. And Anbu Mason making his way out now. Fresh mediums for him. So Final Flame, controversially here, has decided to come in. I thought... I didn't really know the length of the tires, or the tire lives, as it were, but Final Flame apparently has decided that he's not too confident on those softs, and he's chosen the preferred medium tire now, and that is his completed pit stop of the day. He could go medium to soft at some point when that round of pit stops happen. That could help him. We may be lucky enough to get the safety car in at the end of this lap. We're just waiting for, as Gunnar making his way through Speaker's Corner now, the Mercedes of Anbu is caught up. Now, the Sector 3 line is at the exit of campus heading into Stavilo. That's usually where the game makes up its mind, whether or not the safety car will be in. And as it is now, Gunnar has made his way to the tail end of the grid. He is right there. We could theoretically get the safety car in this time by. That would be kind of the preferred scenario here, but it may not happen naturally. Maybe it'll make its way out of Stavilo and then it'll make its mind up. I'm hoping it does come in at the end of this lap, although for the time being it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. So unfortunate. As it's an unnecessary safety car here out on track still. Unless it makes a really late decision. And we're going to take one more lap, led by the holographic Burn Mylander and the Aston Martin safety car. So we'll get back to racing on lap 4 of the Grand Prix out of 22. Doesn't look as if anybody else has chosen to enter the pit lane, and predictably, safety car will unnecessarily make his way another lap round. Sorry, I'm just going ahead and clipping the Jehovah's Witness quote because that may be one of the more clever things I've ever come up with on the fly. Sometimes I even do surprise myself with the weird things I could say. Not the strangest thing I've ever said, thankfully enough. But safety car is going to be making its way here through campus and Stavilo here very shortly, hoping that it's going to make its way in at the end of this lap, as it should have last time by. And there it goes. There's the message. So, Mackie will have the opportunity to get himself a better advantage here. What I think he's going to do is he may wait until they get... I think because of how the Constantino effect works, when he gets out of that final chicane, that's when he's really going to hit the throttle because the rest of the cars will be backed up, having to wait for him to react, unless does he go soon. For the time being, that doesn't appear to be the case. He's down to 50 mile an hour here. Almost as if there's a police speed trap on the other side of Blanchimont. He's going so slowly at the moment. Now, this is what Mackie does well. You know, he's a talented driver in his own right, but what actually I notice a lot, he does well time these safety car restarts here. So Palmer, Scornsey, and Reimer, and Race Day for that matter as well, will all need to be on their toes, as it looks like Mackie's going to go now. And look at the advantage he's gotten on Scornsey. That's a half a second deficit already by the time they even get to the chicane. And there he goes, exits the bus stop chicane now, down the pit straight and heading into La Source to begin the 4th lap of the Grand Prix. Hopefully we'll get some racing in this time. Mackie, a 9/10 of a second advantage already. And I was just saying about how well he timed safety car restarts. He's done so again there. Looks as if the grid for the time being stays clean as they make their way now up through Rouge and Radiana. Scornsy already a second behind. No DRS for a couple of laps yet. One of the closer ones now. Plums is trying to hunt down Nicky64. We do now have, it's actually Palmer within a couple of tenths of Scornsy here. He may have a look to the inside through Lacombe. No, not quite, although he is a tenth and a half behind. That one's going to have to be one to look for there. Edwin trying to find something to make happen with Race Day. We do have Callie Robbins just gotten by Swee on the way into Lacombe. As a matter of fact, Race Day has gotten around Ray Ray as well. Goodness me, that is a confusing one, that. But a couple of moves being made there. Mackey leads them down, exiting Speaker's Corner now, already a 2-second advantage. Chuck Blazin 2.5 tenths behind Edwin. Edwin, a bit of a wiggle there. Not really sure what the point of that was. Perhaps to kind of cut off a little bit of a toe. Either way, he's compromised his line going through Puhan. Chuck Blazin having to react and check up and actually goes wide, exiting the double left-hander. And that is surely going to bring him a track limits warning. So a bit of a... what's the word I'm looking for? Cause and effect action there, as Edwin wiggled on the way into Puhan, lost his line, took the inside, kind of pushed Chuck Blazin wide outside of Puhan. Not that he's made contact with him or anything, but Chuck Blazin has had to react to get out of his way. Palmer now, does he have a look at Scornsy heading into the bus stop chicane? The answer is going to be no. It's 0.2 of a second still, but he doesn't need to panic and make anything happen. Reimer, this fourth spot at the moment, looking pretty good. No DRS yet. Half a second for Reimer on the way back. We do have Final Flame and Shariah Coleslaw. They're side by side going through the chicane now. Pretty good. Does Shariah keep the left side? No, he doesn't. We've got the Alpha Tauri of Scavney off at the back, unfortunately. I think he's had some sort of spin or contact there on the way into the chicane. That's very unfortunate for him. Making their way down the Kemmel straight now, as Palmer really trying to reel in Scornsy here. 3.5 tenths of a second in closing. Here comes Palmer trying to find the inside of Lacombe. It's just not going to be close enough, not this time. A little bit further back, we do have Cynical to the inside of Travis Scott now. The soft tires for Cynical, and he's going to make that one happen. Very nicely done for Cynical. Swee and Final Flame. Oh, but Swee's gone round. Yes, he has, and he was side by side with Final Flame on the way in towards the corner, and I'm afraid something has gone horribly wrong in the process. Thankfully, it doesn't appear that he's hit anything other than the sausage curbs on the inside of the track, and the track itself does stay green. Palmer still a half second behind Scornsy. He's not really... it has to be said, the only part of the circuit where Palmer looks as if he's got some sort of an advantage is the straight line speed. Other than that, it does look as if Scornsy does have quite a good pace differential over the Alpine in question. Reimer is actually starting to fall back a little bit. It's quite close. Oh, look at this. Goodness me. Well, that was 3 cars nearly going into campus there, as we've got Kelly Robb and Travis Scott side by side. Final Flame fitting his way in round the outside, going through Stavelo. Bold place about trying to make a move happen, and Final Flame gets one. Can he get 2? Going through Blanchimont and heading towards the bus stop chicane. He's going to have to check up a little bit as Kelly Robb ahead. Not as quick on those hard tires. He's going to peek the left side. Kelly Robb still tries to shut the door on the inside. And to the left side goes Final Flame. He'll have the preferred line through the better part of the chicane there on exits, and Final Flame up 2 positions. Very nicely done. How he's done round the outside through Stavelo like that. Very risky maneuver considering how much that tire barrier on the outside juts out at you. Very risky. Edwin 0.2 of a second behind Race Day. Palmer now with DRS. Pulling 209 mile an hour, looks to the left-hand side, will get the spot there. Edwin will get the spot over Race Day, and now Chuck Blazin, who I think may have initially had a look to try to make that move happen on Race Day as well, unfortunately got backed up with the McLaren falling behind. Edwin up to 5th. And what we've got now is the top 4 drivers have reformed themselves to their initial starting position. Matter of fact, currently out of the top 8, Edwin is the only driver who's moved. There's been a lot of overtaking, don't get me wrong, but it's sorted itself out to how it was at the beginning of the race. Edwin up 4, Kelly Robb up 8, and Boo Mason up 4. Those are the notable movers in the positive direction. Swee is down 6. Fantastic moves from Final Flame to get around Callie Robb and Travis Scott going through campus last time round. 2.5 of a second for Gunner back to Ray Ray. 2.5 here for Race Day on Edwin. Oh, by the way, this battle here, Reimer is actually really pulling both Edwin and his teammate here. He's got 3-second advantage over his teammate, the Mercedes, and now the AlphaTauri all battling for position. Scornsy is 2/10 behind Palmer. I don't think he's going to have anything to LaSource this time, but we'll stay along with him. It's going to have to be one heck of a late break. I can go ahead and say that's not going to happen there. But a good three-car battle happening now. Matter of fact, we're also getting the Williams and the Ferrari behind, kind of joining the fray for the 5th spot. So Mackey 3 seconds ahead. He's going through the Kemmel straight now. Scornsy, I think, has gotten away better out of El Rouge and Radion. He's going to get Palmer here well before they get to the corner. Yep, Scornsy's got him nicely there. Very nice for that of Scornsy. Takes the 2nd spot. Race day to the inside of Edwin. Chuck Blazin looks on and hopes the two make some sort of error ahead. Well, there was contact involved, but Race day got around him cleanly in the end. Just pure wheel-to-wheel contact. Nothing happened. Oh, but Nicky's off in the barrier. This is outside. Entering Malmedy here. That usually when we see cars go off at Lacombe, they're off to the outside where VTEC crashed. Nicky's actually gone deep into the corner on the outside. That's a little bit of a weird place to have gone off. I'm not quite sure that was on driver error, that one. If so, he must have done something really wrong to just purely spin the car there. I think maybe has he had help from behind. 7 laps complete of the 22 scheduled here. Going to be at halfway in just a couple of laps' time, although that's probably a good ways away considering how long the circuit is. Good battle here going for the 14th spot after Nicky spins. I'm wondering if Nicky has any sort of visible damage. Has lost, naturally, the 3 seconds behind a Shariah. I don't believe. It appears everything's in one piece, although Ambu Mason will probably attempt something here, maybe into the chicane. Yeah, it has to be said. Everything looks intact for Nicky. Maybe he's just struggling to yet regain his time here, and also it does take some time to get the tires back cooled down. Nicky does actually end up pitting, so I'm going to go ahead and assume it'll be a front wing change for the Williams here. Yeah, he's too far down in the pit garage to actually warrant me hanging along with him to see. Plums now. Closest battle here in the top 10. Plums at about a 10th and a half behind Chuck Blazin for the 7th spot. Chuck Blazin closing in on Edwin. 3-car battle for the 6th position. And yeah, that's Nicky still in the pit lane. I can go ahead and say it was probably a front wing adjustment there. So as they make their way now, Plum's trying to look to the outside through Brussels. He's actually going to get some good acceleration exiting the corner, going through Speaker now. Now, the outside of that corner is now gravel, so that'll be a fun one. As, you know, now you can kind of get away with going wide there. Matter of fact, you can use that to your advantage until you pick up track limits warnings, but now it's all gravel. That's going to change a lot of how the dynamic of the circuit is played. Oh, big slide there for Plums, but he's caught it. That was, I think, in the similar position where Antonio Giovinazzi had his accident in 2020. Thankfully for the Ferrari driver, he'll keep it together. So Mackey on his way in. Scornsy does not follow suit, nor does Palmer. Reimer naturally staying out as he started on the medium tire. Mackey on his way in. Medium tires, I would assume here, unless does he feel comfortable with trying to go the rest of the distance on the hards. And it will be medium tires for the Williams driver. As in and out he goes, he'll exit here, I would say, actually well within the midfield of the pack here. This may be difficult as he'll have cold tires, and he's got drivers on warm tires behind. Maybe in a position where Mackey might be in a little bit of trouble. He may have to deal with traffic. Palmer behind Scornsy by 0.3 of a second there. Doesn't quite get an opportunity to get him in towards Lacombe. Final flame in the Plums. The Haas will actually get down the inside of the Plums heading into Lacombe. Very nicely done. Towards Malmedy they go as Edwin, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Travis Scott and Shariah, they were side by side in through Lacombe, and Shariah, the Red Bulls, gotten around the Alfa Romeo there. Plums and Final Flame side by side through Speaker's corner, and that's a lot of contact with the outside. They're still side by side here, and Plums is going to back off and allow Final Flame to take the line initially through the double left-hander at Puhan. And that was a lot of contact there between the two cars. I'm a little surprised. Well, maybe they have some sort of not visible to the naked eye side pod damage that we don't see, because that was a noticeable little tangle that those two had. So back to the lead, battle for the lead here. Scornsy has pulled up about a second advantage over that of Palmer as they make their way into the chicane now. Scornsy is going to take the drive into the pit lane. Palmer follows suit. Reimer stays out on track. Remember, Reimer started on the medium tires. He won't need to pit for a little while here. Race Day will stay out as well. He's on the hards. Chuck Blazin on the medium stays out. Final Flame stays out. Plum stays out. Edwin on his way in. Now, Edwin on the mediums. That's a bit of an interesting choice. Not really sure why he's decided to come in here, although to the hard tires for Edwin. Cynical has decided to stop as well. Soft to medium for him. So the first round of pit stops truly underway here. That'll promote the previous race leader of Mackey back up to the 6th spot. Actually somewhat under pressure here from Callie Robb. We'll go ahead and look at the tire strategies now. Scornsy on the fresh medium tires drops to 8th. We do have Final Flame and Chuck Blazin ahead. Final Flame gets down to the inside, gets Chuck Blazin, and now Blazin under pressure from Plums. Round the outside, tries to look for the Ferrari as they head into Malmedy now, and Plums will have to back off and allow Chuck Blazin by as he had gone off track there exiting Lacombe. As the two were side by side, he had to get back on and get himself back on the racing line. So Plums drops to 5th, Chuck Blazin 4th, Final Flame 3rd. The race currently led by the pair of McLarens. Reimer still has yet to make a pit stop here. Race day started on the hards. About half the grid, probably more, still has yet to pit here. Matter of fact, everybody except Mackey in the top 7. Plums now 0.5 of a second back to Chuck Blazin, still for the 4th spot. Mackey entering this battle as well, but I don't think Mackey is going to try too hard here to really get themselves around the two cars ahead, because he knows that the Plums is going to be staying out even longer, considering he started on the hards. Chuck Blazin may come in this time by. I kind of doubt it. I would assume the runners for the medium tires won't come in until probably lap 11 or later. Into the pits, however, goes Final Flame, so I guess I'm wrong there. Final Flame makes his way in. What tires does Final Flame decide to try to put on here? I'm going to go ahead and assume it's going to be the hards, and that will be the case, correct. So now the battle here for the 3rd spot. Mackey has Chuck Blazin and the Plums ahead up through Arouge and Radion. 3 cars through this section of corner. Very risky. Oh, look at... Oh, Mackey wants to split the middle here. They're giving him the room. To the inside is Chuck Blazin. Through the middle is Mackey. And Plums around the outside. And Mackey, well, the driver who we knew was going to be pretty dominant today, a double overtake on both Plums and Chuck Blazin through the middle. Now, I said I didn't think Mackey was going to be too aggressive here and trying to retake position, but, well, I guess I'm allowed to be wrong, because this time I am. Mackey up to 3rd. Great move from him. Remember, Mackey won 6 out of the last 7 races. Pound for pound, probably the best driver on the grid right now. Palmer to the inside through Puhan. This might get dirty. Side by side here. Wow. Brilliant racing between these two. They've kept it clean through the double left-hander side by side. I tell you what, Callie Robb will be upset that he lost position, but I think both of them are going to be happy that they did that cleanly, and I've got it on camera as well. Brilliantly done by the two. So Chuck Blazin and the Plums here on a good battle. Now, I'm curious to see when Chuck Blazin decides to come in, because now we're seeing drivers on the medium stop here. Not everybody. Well, look at this. Chuck Blazin actually held up by the Plums here just a little bit. The pair of McLaren still at the top of the grid. Although what I will say is this. For the time being, Mackey is not necessarily improving enough. I mean, he is getting... Well, he has, as I say that, he's taken about 0.4 of a second off the time back to race day. But Reimer's got his teammate by 2.5 seconds here. Race day's got Mackey by 2.5 seconds. Mackey's got Plums by 4. And now Scornsy, who stopped recently in this battle now. Remember, Plums is going to be staying out here for probably a good while still. So is that of Race Day, both of those drivers on the hards. Reimer and Chuck Blazin most likely in here shortly, as well as Travis Scott, as well as Shariah, Gunner, Anbu, Scavney, Ray Swee. As to the inside now is Chuck Blazin. He'll get the spot on Plums as Scornsy has a look. He's not quite going to get it unless he tries to go gutsy. And, whoa, a little bit of a switchback there. Scornsy to the outside through Malmedy. And look at that, round the outside of Malmedy. That's a, again, very unorthodox place to make a move happen, but Scornsy up to the 5th spot. Very nicely done there for the defending champion. So we're about halfway through this Grand Prix now. Next time by will be 10 laps to go. Oh, that's interesting. Palmer, either Plums has made a mistake coming out of Speaker's Corner, or he has ceded the position to the Alpine there. Little odd. Scornsy now a 10th and a half behind Chuck Blazin. Halfway through this Grand Prix, 10 laps to go next time by. We started with 20, we're down to 19 as VTech crashed on the opening lap. Palmer, oh, look at this, side by side here. Chuck Blazin's gotten a little squirrely coming out of Stavelo. Scornsy to the right side now. Chuck Blazin trying to follow suit. The two Frenchmen, the Alpine driver, side by side, is not the part of the track you want to go side by side through. And look at them go. They've actually done it okay. I'm a little surprised. That one's gone as well. I remember having several instances of contact with HSVDT back when F2 was still relevant through that section of the track. Mackey to the inside of Race Day will actually get the spot there. When did Mackey make up that much time? Yeah, I'm not too sure. He's rather made that one out of the blue, but either way. So Plum's into the pit lane now. Another driver on the medium tires who started on those to do so. We now have, though, Race Day to the inside, and he's gotten past Mackey, so the pair of McLarens retake the top 2 spots. Mackey in behind. Perhaps does Race Day hold up the Williams here, and Scornsy kind of gets back into the picture. Scornsy on fresher tires as well as got Palmer. So Palmer's in this battle as well. Of course, there's a 6.5 second difference between the Williams and the Aston Martin. Unfortunately for the Plums, he's got a 3-second time penalty to try to negotiate now. Reimer, I think, when he does pit, will only fall to about 7th, which will be probably a halfway decent spot for him, and I do think... Yet both his teammate and Chuck Blazin still have yet to pit here, as well as Travis Scott for that matter. Scornsy 2.5 tenths of a second behind Race Day here. Heading towards Campus and Stavelo now. I tell you what, Mackey really looking to get something happening here. Scornsy has gained back about a second to the Williams in question here, but now Mackey's going to have to try something here around the right side as they make their way through Blanchimont, and Race Day will actually hold the inside line. He's not giving it up, and Mackey will still be held up by the McLaren here. He'll have to look for the left side now in towards the bus stop chicane. All the while, Reimer is losing time, and Mackey to the inside pulls off the good old switchback. I think he's sold him the dummy. I don't really know what it's called in that scenario, but either way, Mackey has taken the lead as Reimer's on the way in. Another driver on the mediums to make the spot, so that's going to allow Race Day to keep second. Reimer in. He'll be losing a good couple of spots here, but it will be to, I believe, what are those? Are those the soft tires here? Yep, soft tires for that of Reimer in the pits as well as that of Chuck Blazin. So Reimer falls to only 5th. Oh, we've got a bit of a conundrum coming out of the final corner, I think. Yeah, we've got the Alfa Romeo of Ray has gone into the gravel there. I think Shariah, no, I don't really know. It looked like it was a good gaggle of cars in that congested part of the circuit. That's not been the case. Reimer to the softs. Chuck Blazin to the softs. Scavney and Swede to the softs as well. So it looks as if everybody has stopped here minus that of Race Day and Travis Scott, the only remaining 2 yet to pit. We'll pull up the penalty tracker now as Palmer tries to reel in Scornsy here for the 3rd spot. These two on equal tire strategy. Once Race Day pits, it looks as if the top 4 are going to retain the order in which they started the Grand Prix. I think minus Palmer then taking the 2nd spot, or vice versa. Cynical getting down the inside of Ambu Mason there. On the way heading towards Campus and Stavelo. 10th and a half here between Palmer and Scornsy. It's a very close battle here for what will eventually be the 2nd spot. Reimer 9 seconds behind, although on the softs. Might be okay for the time being, but he's got a lot of ground to cover with a lot of laps left to go. That might be a little bit risky for the McLaren as Cynical actually getting around Travis Scott into the chicane. Travis Scott's going to pull off track and into the pit lane. Gunnar Addy doing the same. Gunnar, this will be his second stop. Travis Scott will pit here for the first time, and that will just leave Race Day 2016 as the lone driver yet to stop in the Belgian Grand Prix so far. Palmer gets within 0.2 of a second of Scornsey, unable to get close enough to make something happen. Oh! Well, that's an interesting development. Mackey has pulled off and has accumulated a 3-second track limits penalty. That is, I'm assuming, he's made that happen coming out of Speaker's Corner, and that is a whole extra thing thrown into the way here. This battle now potentially for the lead. Of course, he'll still be about 5 seconds clear of Scornsey once Race Day decides to pit, which I'm assuming is probably going to be this time by. As, remember, you do need to fulfill at least a pit stop to a different compound tire. Race Day has not done that yet. He started on the hards, remains on the hards. Though what we do have now is this. Chuck Blazin within 3.5 of Cynical here. In through Campus and Stavilo. As is Race Day going to decide to pull in this time? Yes, he does. So Race Day into the pit lane. And what I think might actually be a very good strategy here for the McLaren. I'm assuming the soft tire is going to be taken. Mackey has a net 3-second advantage over his championship contender counterparts of Scornsey and Palmer. So now the battle here, most likely for the second spot, unless Mackey gets out of shape and picks up another track limits penalty. Palmer now, I think, wanted to have a look at Scornsey to the inside there, kind of didn't commit to it quick enough. Anbu Mason in the pit lane must be. Yep. So Chuck Blazin now, 2.5 behind Cynical. We do have the two Ferrari drivers, both on 3-second penalties, but within 1.5 of each other. Chuck Blazin to the inside will get him well before they head to Lacombe. Very nicely done for the Alpine, as the Ferraris look like they invert positions here. Both drivers on the medium, so pure pace differential is what the call was there. As Final Flame now a 3-second penalty. That's about 1.5 seconds net time back to Race Day in the positive direction. For the time being, he won't lose that spot. 5 drivers picking up 3-second penalties. Palmer within 6.5 of Scornsey, although it has to be said, for the time being, Palmer does not necessarily look as if, despite being on equal tires with Scornsey, not really reeling in the Aston Martin. These two have been battling back and forth in the early stages of the race. Perhaps is Palmer conserving. They're both pretty well on battery here, about 50% the both of them. So that will tell me Palmer is not necessarily in a hurry to try to overtake Scornsey here. As now heading into La Source, it's about 4.5 of a second between them. So next time by will be 5 laps to go here in Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix. Remember, next week is going to be the San Marino or Imola Grand Prix, whatever it's referred to as now, at the Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. 0.4 of a second between Palmer and Scornsey still. Now, Palmer has once again decided to conserve his energy store going down the Kemmel Straight. Was at about 50 beginning the lap, is now at 60. So he has not touched his energy store in a good while now. He's going to wait to try to make something happen as the Ferrari drivers will actually invert positions again. I say invert positions, that's the political way of putting it. That may be actually some racing here. As Sui and Scavany side by side now making their way down Kemmel. And Sui will get the move made there. Quick check on positions gained and lost. Callie Robb up 9 positions. Absolutely driver of the day so far after starting in P20. Shreya Coleslaw up 4. As far as in the negative direction, Nikki down 11 after his spin exiting Lacombe. So Palmer 4.5 tenths of a second here, closing in. The duo battling for second has lost about an extra half second back to Mackey for the top spot. With 5 laps to go, Shariah with a 3-second penalty now. So the trio of Plums, Callie, Robb, and Shariah now battling purely for position, although Shariah 7 seconds behind that battle. Currently less than a tenth of a second clear of Travis Scott to be able to keep that 12th spot. Reimer doing well here, but relatively not challenging the two ahead of him. I think Reimer was a good idea starting on the softs. Of course, he started the race on the mediums, Palmer to the inside, and will make that move happen. I think Reimer's decision to go medium to soft wasn't a bad one. I do think, however, as race day gets down the inside of Final Flame, I do think, however, he should have tried to extend those medium tires a little bit longer than he did, because for the time being, he is still 3 seconds behind the duo here battling for second. Of course, the more they continue to battle, the closer Reimer will get. But being on the soft tires and having to take him to the end of the Grand Prix, of course, only 4 laps old. That's still a lot. That is a lot of track time for 4-lap-old tires, being how long and high degradation that this circuit is. Of course, there was a couple drivers complaining about the softs before the race had started. Race day thought that the grid was going to be overwhelmed by the soft runners. Nikki was actually quite adamant that the soft tires weren't going to be that good. Well, I mean, I tell you what, it's been a valid attempt to put that strategy in place, but it's not really paid off, has it? Scornsey now really pressuring Palmer. This may be something to look for here into the bus stop chicane. Not going to happen. Palmer still has about 15% more battery than Scornsey. 60-45 is the head-to-head on that. 4 laps to go now. As these two battling for position, they've now lost an additional 1.5 seconds back to Mackey, the top spot. Race day, actually, the fastest lap of the session so far. Very nice for him. So Mackey looking to win 7 out of the last 8 races. Looking to go back-to-back. Miami and Spa. Again, 7 out of the last 8. Scornsey to the inside will get Palmer on the way into Lacombe. This battle, I can go ahead and guarantee, is not done quite yet. These two cars have been even on pace pretty much all day long, and it's been that way from the start of the Grand Prix to now, and I'm sure that it's going to continue to be that way. Swee and Scavney making their way into La Source. They've got Ambu Mason a little bit further behind, so a 3-car battle here for what is the 15th spot. We do also have Callie Robb. Now, this is interesting here. Either Cynical has made some sort of mistake, or Callie Robb is really putting some good laps down, because he is now within half a second over Cynical. So 2 Ferraris and a Red Bull here for the 9th spot. Now, let's see if the Aston Martin and the Mercedes have anything to say here against the AlphaTauri into Lacombe. No, they're not going to be quite close enough yet. Only the 1 safety car of the day. That was on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Relatively early on as well. They had only just exited Sector 1. And, well, since then, since lap 4, it's been smooth sailing and green flag racing here. And I think, unless something ridiculous happens, it's going to stay that way. 3 laps to go now for Mackey. 8-second advantage over Scornsey and Palmer. Making their way down the pit straight. Again, Palmer saving up a lot of his battery, but I think Scornsey has kind of caught on to the idea of doing that. About 60% for Scornsey, 70% for Palmer. So at least that'll tell me that Scornsey's going to have enough to defend. Palmer's going to have enough to attack. So that's going to be a really interesting battle here. I don't think it's going to happen this time by. Palmer's been playing this very conservatively. That does raise a little bit of alarm bells. Of course, they've been trading positions back and forth, but neither of them have been able to pull away. Palmer looks to change that this time, is down to the inside, and it looks as if he may, well, he will take the spot. Whether or not he keeps it is going to be the next question. Edwin up the hill now, has 0.2 of a second back to Chuck Blazin, of course, on a 3-second penalty. But, hey, either way, up to 7th spot, at least for now, is that of Edwin. Chuck Blazin falls back to 8th. We've got Callie Robb around the outside of Cynical. Cynical will lose the spot to both the Ferraris here. A little bit of teamwork, perhaps, from the boys from Maranello. Both of them on 3-second penalty. Of course, Cynical without a 3-second penalty, but if the 2 Ferraris can work together, they'll put together a bit of a good result here if at least one of them can keep the spot, although for the time being that looks not necessarily far-fetched. It's got a lot of work to do. Sui and Anbu Mason now side by side. Anbu Mason has the outside line and will keep the spot. Sui may have an opportunity to strike back, although doesn't really have a look for. A very polarized day for the Aston Martin brothers. Scornsey in third, Sui 17th. Third to last out of still remaining drivers on track. So this time by 2 laps to go. As we're into the final third of this season. And Mackey, when he has been here in Division 1, has been dominant. Still not atop the table in points. Perhaps does that change today? Probably not, would be my guess, as these two in second and third. Oh, as we've got Edwin around. Yes, we do. That is making the way through the chicane. Second and third on track at the moment, currently first and second in the championship, as Scornsey now will try the outside on Palmer, looks to take a spot. But this is the interesting part. Reimer has potentially entered the fray. He was about 3 seconds behind not all that long ago, and as these two cars start battling here, should Reimer take one of these podium positions, that will really open up a gap from Mackey to somebody. Remember, Mackey currently leads the Grand Prix, third in the championship, despite having won 7 out of the last 8 races. Well, that'll be 7 out of the last 8 if he does win today, which for the time being is looking increasingly likely. Reimer closing in here. He'll have DRS for the first time, probably all race almost, it seems. It doesn't look as if for the time being he'll have enough energy store to really make something happen. But again, this car and this driver really good in the slow speed sector, so perhaps does Reimer make up some time here for the time being. Doesn't really appear that that's the case. Edwin picking up a 3-second penalty exiting Speaker's Corner. Plums and Shariah battling now. That's for the 11th spot. Nicky and Ray Ray's trading spots there at the back end of the grid. But Mackey now making his way out of the bus stop chicane for the penultimate time here as Nicky picks up 3 seconds for corner cutting. Mackey starts the final lap of the Grand Prix. 8 seconds behind is the battle for second between first and second. Well, more specifically second and first in the driver standings. And Reimer lurking behind, not in DRS range yet. The detection zone is before Eau Rouge here. Reimer is really close to being a factor in this battle for the podium here. But this is going to be his best chance, and I think he's really missed it unless these two battle and hold each other up ahead here. Oh, it may just be all over. I don't think Reimer may have the podium today, but side by side now. First and second in the championship, heading into Lacombe. Palmer around the outside. This is what he was saving up the battery for, and he makes the spot happen. And Scornsey drops to third, but still a lot of time left here. A lot of track remaining. As Mackey makes his way, he's heading now in towards the double F at Pouon. 7.5, nearly 8 seconds up the road. Reimer a 1.5 seconds behind for what I believe was a Division 1 full-time debut for Reimer. And a 4th position finishing will be fantastic for him. As a matter of fact, the top 4, after all the battling done, are, for the time being, stay as they were. But aside from Mackey leading the charge here, it's been a very good battle between these two in particular, trading position nearly every other lap. And that was actually kind of a wiggle exiting campus there as they go through Stavilo now. Scornsey may have a look into the chicane. We'll check with that in a minute. For the time being, Mackey making his way into the chicane. Well, he does it here. He'll win 7 out of the last 8 races. He won last week in Miami. He will win again here in Spa. 7 out of 8 for Mackey. Takes the win in Spa. Now, as they go through the chicane, unfortunately, Scornsey does not have enough to get to Palmer here. He'll finish 0.2 of a second short, and Reimer, in what I believe is a full-time debut, goes 4th. Race day, 5th. Great result from the McLaren team. Final Flame with penalty as well. I believe he will at least keep 6th, although Callie Robb and Edwin here side by side in the chicane. Well, this is interesting. Edwin on 6 seconds of penalty, but still side by side, and Callie Robb will get his way ahead there. Oh, maybe not. Well, he'll at least cross the line first out of that battle. Edwin will drop to 11th. Cynical up to 8th with not having any penalty. And that is the reward of driving consistently there, as Cynical improves 4 positions after not picking up a penalty and goes up to 8th spot. Scavney and Travis Scott battle at the line, although I think was Travis Scott out of fuel? Yes, he was. So Travis Scott loses a spot at the line to Scavney after running out of fuel. Nikki still yet to cross the line here in Ray after that, but next time out here in Division 1, we head to the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari in Imola. There's so many words in the name of that track, man. I forget so often. Well, we head to Imola next week for the 11th round of the season. Mackie, congratulations to him and the rest of our podium finishers. It was a very solid Grand Prix. Full, flat-out racing from lap 4 onward. Doesn't get much better than that. So after it's all said and done here in Spa, Mackie takes his 7th win out of the last 8 rounds, finishes first, Palmer second, Scornsey third, Reimer fourth. The top 4 stay as they started. Race Day comes up to 5th, Final Flame 6th, Chuck Blazin 7th, Cynical 8th, Callie Robb 9th, 10th is Plums, 11th is Edwin, 12th Shariah, 13th is Gunner, 14th Scavney. Travis Scott loses that 14th spot at the line after running out of fuel. Anbu Mason 16th, Sui 17th, Nikki 18th, 19th is Ray. And rounding out the grid is that of VTech, who unfortunately did not see the end of the first lap. Next week, Imola, into the final 5 rounds of the season. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you once again here in Division 1, and we'll see you next time.